Hey guys, why am I standing in front of an old school paneled wall? Well, I'm in a house we're about to remodel. Yes, remodel. So if you've been watching my videos, you will see I never talk about remodel. And that's because the whole time I've had this company, I have turned down more remodel business than I care to think about. But then again, it was a niche of the business that I didn't really have a desire to work in. So if you are an experienced home builder, there's no problem doing remodel. You know everything there is to know about houses. All of our subcontractors work on remodels, so this isn't a problem to do. It's more about the business kind of being its own segment in construction that I just was a sandbox I didn't want to play in. With remodel, subject to the type you're doing, you're often in the house while people are living there. You have a lot of different challenges than you do with new construction. You know, it's funny, we have our own challenges building new homes sometimes, and then you look over at remodel and hey, just watch, an HGTV show with Property Brothers or somebody like that, and every show you watch, a wall has been opened up and uh-oh, there's something that we didn't expect, and this is, of course in that show, they call the homeowners and it's gonna cost you another 10 grand or whatever it is. But that's remodel for you. You're getting into houses that have been around for a long time. Nobody knows what's behind the walls, and you do have those challenges. I did a remodel for my sister a few years ago, which was just a case of she was buying an older home built in the 70s, wanted to turn the galley kitchen into the open concept and all these kind of things. And of course, she's my sister. I didn't charge her anything for it. We said, hey, we'll use my guys and no big deal. And even with that, we were running into some stuff that I thought was kind of crazy at the time. I remember demoing, the wall between the kitchen and the living room and all this, and had the old brick fireplace. And when I walked in after the guys had demoed it, there was a hole in the foundation where the fireplace had been. And by hole, I mean it was recessed. It was down lower than the finished floor. And I look at this and I think, why was the fireplace recessed? So normally you wouldn't do that. You would just build on top of the slab. And light bulb went off, and I don't remember what the flooring was in the living room, but I just walk over basically next door. I mean, the fireplace is partly backing up to the kitchen, partly in the living room. And I stomp really hard on the floor and I hear it's hollow. So that tells me that it was a sunken living room, something that was extremely popular in that part, that suburb of Dallas-Fort Worth in the, I guess it was mid to late 70s, maybe early 80s. The sunken living room, 6 inches down was a big deal. It must have been really cool back then. And then later everybody figures out it's a trip hazard. It's, you got problems with these. So everybody brings them back up. You can pour concrete in them, but most people just go ahead and frame them up. So that was an experience. I can remember we were demoing the floor in the kitchen and there were 2 layers of tile. I don't think I've ever seen that before in my life. Not sure how that even got done, but it was quite a demo job to get rid of 2 layers of tile. And that was just a little thing, partial house remodel for my sister. And, it just kind of taught me, hey, here's some of the crazy stuff that happens when you're trying to do this. After years of not doing it, one thing that has happened, I think, throughout the country, and certainly in Dallas-Fort Worth, is we're having a bit of an affordability crisis. We had all that inflation back during the COVID times. It costs so much more to build a house now. It costs a ton to buy land around here because we're a fast-growing area. And so, hey, if everybody's moving somewhere, then land's going to get more expensive, right? And so a lot of people are opting to stay in their houses, to do big renovations, big remodels. And some of the most common, times you'll see that decision made is when you're in an area, a city or a suburb where it is a place people want to be. So I am in a suburb where this house is at, right by DFW Airport. I mean, it's a 5-minute drive, maybe 10-minute drive over to the airport, but we're basically right next to the airport. This is a suburb that it was always popular because of its location at the airport, but now it's pretty well built out also, which is, what you'll see with suburbs over the years. You will build out all the available space. Maybe there's a niche little piece of land with a little cul-de-sac going here or there with a builder here or there, but for the most part, you can't come into this suburb and buy new homes anymore. Now, that's not to say there isn't new construction happening, because sometimes people will elect to tear down a house. Hey, we're going to tear down this old house. There's too much involved to remodel it. we're better off starting fresh. The land is worth so much money, it makes sense to do that in some cases. And you will see that in desirable neighborhoods and suburbs. When a city is kind of built out, you will see tear downs and rebuilds happening. That's something we definitely do. But one thing you will also see happening more and more in those types of subdivisions are major renovations and remodels. And just to kind of clear up for those that don't know the difference between a renovation and a remodel, a renovation is a spruce up. It is coming into a home like this that has paneling and popcorn ceiling and all these things that this house has that is not what we would want these days, and just redoing it all. You know, we're getting rid of all this paneling, we're getting rid of all these various things, the cabinets, all the stuff in this old home, which this home I think was built in like 1989. And we are just simply refreshing everything with new materials that look up to date, but we aren't actually changing the floor plan. With a renovation, the walls are staying where they're at. It's just everything is being refreshed. Think taking your older car and giving it a paint job, maybe putting new wheels on it, you know, it's that. Remodels? Now remodels require structural changes, and this house is getting a remodel. This is one of these cases where the house is a remodel reno situation. Certain rooms probably aren't being touched other than renovation. Other areas are getting pretty significant remodel changes where walls are moving, there's all kinds of things being done. So in this particular house, I'm gonna do a little kind of walk and talk. We are in the classic 1980s den, we'll call it, great room, which is what this house has. I do find it interesting, even me having been in this business since 1994, to, you know, it's probably this way with fashion and clothes and everything. We can look back on old pictures of ourselves and think, how was that something everybody was into? You know, how were those clothes? I grew up in the 80s, so you can really look back at the 80s and go, how was that a thing? You know, how were we wearing those kind of clothes? I feel that way when I walk houses now. It is a case where, and even just in the last 20 years, I mean, in 2005, I was working for a different company, didn't have my own business yet, but we were building nice custom homes, but the style was totally different. Old world, everything was dark, dark colors. We were doing a lot of faux painting. The exteriors looked old world. We were using stone and brick and things that kind of gave it that look. Beautiful homes and very ornate. I talked about this recently, that things were a lot more ornate than they are now. The crown moldings and everything had all these profiles to them, whereas things have become very light and bright and simplified. And that wasn't that long ago, relatively speaking. Then you get into this era of, you know, the 70s, the 80s, and you can really look back and go, okay, things like this, you know, the paneled walls, they were just, this was it, all the rage. All of these homes that you walk into from this era had the paneled walls in the living room. And, you know, I look at it as a builder and go, man, there was a lot of work done here. You know, the trim carpenters were in here putting up all this paneling, doing, you know, all the panels, the pieces. Have one of those moments where my vocabulary, even though my builder is completely failing me. The beams, just the fireplace designs. If you can see behind me here, this isn't as bad as some. You know, you see some of them that just, I was in one recently where there were literal brick planters inside the house. So areas like this room are generally getting a renovation. These walls behind me are going to go away. We're opening everything up, going to do an open concept kitchen and all that. But as you can see throughout the home, you know, our cabinets, kind of the old ash, I think those are, maybe oak, stained cabinets, just a lot of styles that, you know, or haven't been popular for a long time. And so a house like this is going to get a little of both. But I want to document this one. I think it will be a fun one to see it come along, how an older home can be transformed. These folks do not live in the house. That's one thing. As I get into the remodel and renovation business, it is going to be large scale only. So we're going to be doing whole home type stuff. Legacy will not be a company to come in and do your, you know, if you're in Dallas Fort Worth, to come in and do your kitchen or your bathroom. There are companies that specialize in that and are great at it. We are going to be whole home renovators and remodelers. This is not a huge house. I want to say it's about 2,100 feet, and it's going to grow 25, 26 because we are actually going to add a new primary bedroom and bath, but we're not adding much onto the house. There is some addition that's going to happen to the house, but most of it's going in the garage. Then they've just told us they want to add a garage, so we will do a detached garage on this also. But this is a home they're going to hold on to in this desirable area. They live in another home. They've had their kids living here through the years, and now everybody's gone, and they just want to hold on to it for it to be in, you know, an asset, a rental property or something of that nature. But it's in such a desirable area that, you know, this is one of these things, as much money as they're probably going to put into this, I would say they will get it back out. This is something when you're talking about remodels and renovations, that's always a challenge. I think new construction home building is a little more cut and dried. You know, hey, the plan costs this much to build. We're in an area where we know the values are X. We're okay to do this. Renovations and remodels can be challenging. Hey, I'm gonna put $300,000 into this, you know, 2,100 square foot home, make it a little larger, you know, but does that make sense? And sometimes with renovations and remodels, it doesn't make sense if you are going to sell the property in a short period after that. There again, it doesn't really make sense for a new home either. Other than being in a situation where the values are just skyrocketing every year, even building a new home doesn't make a lot of sense if you're going to sell it in a year. Again, the skyrocketing values thing, and that happened around here, and I did have some homeowners sell homes that we built. I had a couple less than a year before, and I like to joke they made more money than I did as a builder because the values were just going crazy. Generally speaking though, assuming normal inflation increases with a house, if you sold a brand new home a year later, you're generally going to potentially lose money by the time you pay realtor fees and all that kind of stuff. The same can be true for a remodel and renovation. They are thought of more, especially when you're doing large scale versions where you are sinking hundreds of thousands of dollars into a house. It can be more of a long game. You know, it is number one, hey, we're doing this because we live here and we want it to look modern. We want it to look contemporary, not modern style, but just up to date. But we're going to stay here. And then in the long run, you may see that return on that investment. You know, you just wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to do a crazy expensive remodel and then try to sell the home immediately after because you may not get your money back out of it. But if it's something where you want to stay in the home or you're in a really desirable area like we are in here with this suburb where it's right next to the airport, it's got so much going for it that I think even with the money they're going to put into this house, in just a few years, they will get their money back out and then some. So let's take a little tour through this and show you guys what we are going to do to this house. So as you walk in, we've got a little entry here. I'll turn around so you can see the front door. We aren't going to do anything to the outside of this house, and it does have new Pella windows that they put in a while ago. I think they are Pella vinyl. But here's that den. Still a few things sitting around the house, but we've got the paneled walls. We have the beams going up the vault to the ceiling. All this paneling and all of those beams are going to go away. We will redo a nice center beam there. Here's the fireplace. As was common with homes years ago, it was actually a masonry fireplace. So all of that is just built with fire brick, and then we've got regular brick on the exterior, creating some kind of design. They almost always had large raised hearths made out of brick. So the fireplace is going to be one of the, you know, features of this room. So we're going to come back and do something cool with this. And there is our entry. So this formal dining here, this is all going to be opened up. So we're going to go to full open concept. Some of those walls will go away and everything will become open, light and bright. We're changing some ceilings. We've got boxed vault ceilings here. Things like that are all changing. You know, the louvered stained doors. Again, something I look at now and just think, not sure why that was popular, but closed off kitchen, as was typical. believe these are ash cabinets. All the medium stain on them. Had a sliding door walking out to the back. This is one area where we are going to be adding on. This will actually start back at this wall. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but there's an angle here. This will end up going straight across and encompassing living space. So we'll have a hallway going back to the primary bedroom. You know, pretty common kitchen setup. With the breakfast directly off the kitchen, but nothing's open. Although they did make nice little open holes in walls to open things up. And this leads into a little laundry room, which this is all going to be redone and changed. And as a lot of laundry rooms do, leads to the garage. This is actually going to become a new primary bedroom and bathroom. So we will be coming in here, and the bathroom's going to be on that back wall, the bedroom's here, you know, new hallways will be done. This is the part that takes a lot of work. We've got electric panels that have to be relocated, plumbing put in place. You know, ultimately, because garages are dropped from houses, this will all be brought up to grade. And then we'll go back into the house. Again, more louvered twin door sets. And then this was the hallway to the entry, which branches off, goes past the kitchen and breakfast to a hall bath that'll be completely redone. Pony walls will be no more. That was something, these half walls between the cabinets and the toilets, I assume was to shield people using the toilet, but most people closed the door. So not sure why those were so popular, but that will go away. We'll have a tall cabinet and just a nice paneled end on it. We are going to keep a tub shower set up there, so we'll just go back in with new. The two secondary bedrooms, there's a nice stained linen. The two secondary bedrooms are just going to be renovated with obviously flooring and new paint and things like that. Actually, I say that we have talked about, we may take this down to the studs to spray foam the walls in this house to help them with energy costs in the house. As happens with these, sometimes you start and then the project keeps growing in scope. And here's the original primary bedroom. Into the primary bathroom. These stained louvered doors will probably be worth thousands of dollars someday when they come back into vogue. Again, the half wall separating the vanity. The cultured marble with just incredible textures to it was very popular. See it on the countertops there. This one had a little niche shower kind of over here. This is all going to become a single, there will still be a linen there and then a single vanity here. This top will remain where it's at, but will become one sink. And then we will turn this section where the tub is into a shower. This will no longer have a tub. Because that's a new window, the round window is going to stay. We will move it up because it's a shower, so it's not really in sight when somebody's in there taking a shower. So that's it. Little walkthrough of the house that will grow a bit because we will be adding, behind me here actually is the exterior door to the current primary bedroom. That will just become part of the living space because the exterior wall now will move over here and this will be a hallway. So we won't be coming in through that side anymore. We'll be coming in through here. So this one's going to be fun to go through. Obviously they aren't living here. This is something where we're going to come in, tear it up. Like I said, we may be putting new insulation in it. So we may be taking it all the way down to the studs. And it will look like a different house when all is said and done. The outside looked pretty good. They're going to leave that alone. Try to limit the amount of money they're putting into it. But yeah, all of this, actually my superintendent was in here with them the other day, and they mentioned they couldn't wait to see that cabinet. That was the other thing, the old upper cabinets that hung down and blocked the view, and he just grabbed it and kind of yanked it down. So here's the original upper cabinet that he pulled off the ceiling. So anyways, this is going to be a fun one. Look forward to you guys watching. I'll document it as we go, and I'll see you in the next video.